Let's talk now to Steve Jermy, a retired British Commodore. Steve, welcome. President Trump saying the United States military will guide stranded ships. If you were back in the military, what might that look like?
I think it would look like a very risky operation, Jermy, and thanks for the invitation. The idea of taking vessels through the Strait of Hormuz, which is just 20 miles wide, whilst being under attack potentially by Iranian forces, about which it's very difficult to do anything about, is pretty difficult, frankly. So I'd be surprised if the Americans actually commit to it. Because if it were me, the first thing I'd say to my commander is, do we really have to do this? And the second thing I'd say, well, we are going to take losses. So it's a fairly stark and difficult thing to do.
Presumably, Mr. Trump is surrounded by very senior military people advising him on what to do next. I mean, given your naval background, from a military perspective, where does this go next?
From a military perspective, it's very difficult to see any solution for the United States or Israel, Jamie. The problem is that there are no significant land forces in the campaign, and you need overwhelming land forces, and we're talking about millions, Jamie, not tens of thousands, which is what we've got in the theatre at the moment. So it's very difficult to see that we've got anything other than a stalemate, and the stalemate with the Straits of Hormuz closed will lead to increasing pain in the United States, but even more so in the Far East and in Europe, who will really suffer and already are suffering. So I can see no obvious answer other than perhaps the Europeans to actually start talking to the Iranians, and the Far East countries starting to talk to the Iranians and arrange their own transits through the Straits.
The United States should outgun Iran by every military measure, surely. Why is that not happening?
Well, they may outgun the Iranians in simple military terms, but what we've got is a very small space of water where it's very difficult to operate warships. And the worst thing for a warship is to be very, very close to the land, which is exactly what she'll be doing through the Straits of Hormuz. And the reason is you have very little time for the attacks that can be mounted against you to respond to those attacks. So, you can have fast boat attacks, but much more importantly, Jeremy, are the drones, but also the hypersonic and ballistic missiles, which is extremely difficult to protect warships against. So it's an area we've got very little sea room, and it sort of reminds me of the Gallipoli campaign, where the British and the French and others took significant losses trying to force the Straits of Gallipoli and failed against the Turkish.
Steve, I'm sure we'll talk again in coming weeks, but for the moment, thank you. Steve Jermy, the retired British Commodore.